Many sports begin with a coin flip, and this coin flip determines who gets the kickoff and who gets which side to start. Now, in Ultimate Frisbee, or at least on the competitive level, things are a little bit different. Each team sends a captain, and each captain brings a Frisbee, and at this point, they flip the disc, and if both are right side up, then they're considered same. If both are facing downward, they're considered same. And if one disc is up, one disc is down, they're different. So instead of calling heads or tails, you call same or different. And today we're going to be talking about which one you should call. Now to begin, we're going to say that u is the probability of it landing face up, and 1 minus u is then going to be the probability of it landing face down. Because when you add the two together, you're obviously going to have a probability of 1 because it has to be face up or face down. Now the probability of it being same is going to be the probability of them both being face up or the probability of them both being face down. So that means it's the probability face up times the probability face up plus the probability face down times the probability of face down. Now the probability of it being different is pretty much the same thing, except it's going to be the probability face up times the probability face down and vice versa. Now at this point, we said that the probability face up is u, so we're going to replace all of the face up with u's, and the probability face down is 1 minus u, so we're going to replace all the probability of face downs with 1 minus u. At this point, we can start factoring, and we're going to get that the probability of the same is going to equal u squared plus 1 minus u squared, which is 2u squared minus 2u plus 1. Probability of different is going to be u times 1 minus u plus u times 1 minus u, which is going to be negative 2u squared plus 2u. And again, we'll notice that the sum of these is going to equal 1. So now we want to figure out for which values of u, the probability of the same is going to be greater than the probability of it being different. So we're going to say that the probability of same is going to be greater than the probability of different. At this point, we're going to replace p of same with what we said it was earlier and p of different with what it was earlier. We can now solve, and we're going to get 4u squared minus 4u plus 1 is greater than 0, and that actually factors out nicely to 2u minus 1 times 2u minus 1 is greater than 0. At this point, we're going to break this into two cases. It'll make sense in a minute. So let's say that 2u minus 1 is greater than 0. That's the first case. We can then divide both sides by 2u minus 1. Well, 0 divided by anything is 0. So from this, we're going to get that 2u minus 1 is greater than 0. So u must be greater than 1 half. So now the other case is if 2u minus 1 is less than 0. So now if we divide 0 by 2u minus 1, it's going to be 0 again. However, 2u minus 1 is going to be negative, and in an inequality, if you divide by a negative, you have to flip the sign. So that means that our yellow 2u minus 1 is also going to be less than 0 then, and u is going to be less than 1 half. What this tells us is that for u is greater than 1 half and u is less than 1 half, the probability of the discs landing in the same direction is more likely than the probability of them landing in opposite directions. Again, that means that unless it's completely even, unless it's a 50-50 chance, the probability of them landing in the same direction is greater. You'll notice in the background I'm doing a physical experiment, because math in theory and math in reality aren't always the same. And what I learned from this experience is that they ended up being different more often than not. So this got me thinking, what if the probability of one disc being heads up is 1, and the probability for the second disc, because you flip two discs, if the probability of the second disc is something else? So now, I said the probability of disc 1 being up is u, and the probability of disc 2 being up is v. I then repeated the same process, but this time using the variable v, and it factored out to be 2u minus 1 times 2v minus 1 is greater than 0. And from this, we got that if u is greater than 1 half, then v would also have to be greater than 1 half. And if u is less than 1 half, then v would also have to be less than 1 half, in order for the probability same to be greater than the probability different. After doing the math, I was a little confused as to why I got more difference than sames when doing the physical experiment. And it kind of dawned on me that the second proof actually makes a lot of sense to this. I was throwing it in multiple different ways. I was throwing it actually in about 4 different ways, and I was throwing it in many different directions. When I started out, I was doing it very erratically, intentionally, and I was getting lots of difference. But towards the end, I started throwing it in a more consistent manner, and I got more sames at that point. So one thing I started to notice is that some types of throws would favor face down, and other types of throws would favor face up. And this actually makes a lot of sense given the second experiment we did, because when you start to do throws that favor face down next to throws that favor face up, you're going to get a lot more differences. When you start throwing the same throw over and over, they're both going to favor the same side, whether it's face down or face up, and it doesn't matter, as long as they're consistent, it's going to favor same overall. So even though in my experiment I got more differences than I got sames, I think you should always vote same when you're doing the Frisbee flip at the beginning of the game. And quite frankly, in Ultimate, this is important because whoever gets to pick the side will especially get an advantage in a windy game. And as I said, even though there are more differences in a game, you're probably more likely to be throwing it in the same manner, which means you're going to favor the same side no matter what, which means, as I said, if you both favor the same side, then you're going to favor same, and same is going to be the best way to go. So, to all my Ultimate friends, I hope that this tactic works out for you, and I hope that because of it, you guys get to pick the side, and I hope that you guys win in Universe because you guys picked the correct side at the beginning. So, good luck, everybody.